Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you all on the last day of the 8th workshop in the series of SCS Skills Bootcamp, that is the Geospatial workshop. Myself, Aditya Garg, Joint Secretary of the Geoinformatics Club from Civil Engineering Part 2. Today again, we have Mr. Devashish Dash, mentor of the Geoinformatics Club and final year MTech student of Geoinformatics Department of Civil Engineering. So today we will be learning about Map Composer, interpolation, surface area analysis, graphic modeler, etc. So over to you, Devashish sir.
Okay, thank you, Aditya. Welcome everyone. Good afternoon to each and every one of you. And yeah, so today is the last day of our workshop. And thank you for waiting for up to 10-15 minutes for the workshop to start. And so let's just get started now. So I've shared my screen with you all guys. Can you see the screen? Can anybody confirm?
Yes, Bhaiya, it is visible.
Yeah.
Okay, so and if by chance during the workshop is going on, if there is some network issues because of which you are not able to see the screen or hear my voice, so please do inform me so that I can rectify it on my side. Okay. So yeah, we are starting it from the point where we left off yesterday. I'll just give you a quick recap of whatever we did yesterday. So in the last session, we discussed about all the types of data that we basically use in GIS. We also discussed about georeferencing or raster data, digitizing in GIS using in the QGIS software, and we also discussed some geoprocessing tools, and we also took uh, took a brief idea about how to manipulate the symbology of all the layers that we work on in the QGIS software. Okay, so in today's session, we'll be moving on to a little bit more advanced things which we can do in QGIS. And one of the topic that I wanted to discuss today is surface area analysis. So basically, what is surface area analysis? Now, if you see, surface area analysis is basically the ease of access to any amenities nearby you. So if I give you a very quick example, suppose you go to Google and you search for restaurants near me. So you get a lot of options, a lot of restaurants which are available in your vicinity within a given particular range of distance, maybe 400 meters or 500 meters, and so on. So similarly, you may look up for hospitals, you may look up for ATMs, and then all the results according to your query pops up, and then you can always find your way to the nearest amenity you wanted to access. So this is nothing but surface area analysis, and this is one of the most widely used application of GIS. And in today's session, we'll also be discussing this in detail. I'll show you one of my projects that I've worked on. It's on surface area analysis. So just to give a brief idea, in the last session, we also talked about a geoprocessing tool named Buffer. So last time we digitized a few points over here, as you can see them marked in blue crosses. So just assume for now that these are, let's say, hospitals. These are the locations of hospitals. This point contains the location of a hospital. So there are 5 to 6 hospitals here. So if I create a buffer around it, a buffer of say distance, maybe 1 kilometer or anything. So I obtain an area that lies within a range of 1 kilometer from this exact particular point. Okay, so I'll just demonstrate that once again, because that brings me to another topic of discussion we are going to work on today. And so what I'll do is I'll just simply I'll simply type buffer here. I'll double click on this option and I'll select points. So these points, we have imagined that it is basically the location of hospitals. Okay, in distance, I'll go for 0.475. This is basically the distance we're inputting in degrees. This distance is equivalent to somewhat around 50 kilometers. Okay, and as soon as I click on run, so you can see something has happened, right? Now we have obtained a circular shaped polygon around each and every individual points. So each polygon is a buffer that has been created around each point feature. And now so suppose we consider this what exact polygon. So if I click on it, it will be easier to see. Just a minute. So, so yeah, suppose I click on this polygon, this one got highlighted in the red. And so this is the buffer which has been created around this single point. Now this is the 50 kilometers area in the vicinity of this point. So now what I want to do is I want to obtain the total area, that is the total area which is which is located in a distance of 50 kilometers away from all these points. So what I can do is, here I have 5 to 6 different polygons for each points. So what I'll do is I'll just merge them, and to do that I can use a dissolve option. There is a vector geometry tool in this processing toolbar as well. It's called dissolve. So what I can do is I just select the layer which I created right now. It's buffered, and if I click run on it, then what happens is you can see clearly that, okay, give me a minute. Yeah, so as you can see, this is the dissolved area. Now in the gray it has been marked the total area which lies at a distance of 50 kilometers away from all the points. Okay, so we did this for hospital because that's the only point data which is available on our map, right? Now suppose you assume that you had a different layer for hospital, you had a different layer for ATM, you had a different layer for all the restaurants which are available. So suppose you assume you have like hundreds and thousands of such kind of point layers in your map. So doing this repeatedly would not only be time consuming, but it will also get boring at some point. Okay, so this, how can we reduce this? Like how can we put an algorithm or let the computer do all the work for us just by making a single click? So what we can do is we can plug this entire operation that we did, like creating the buffer and then dissolving it, into a model builder. So what the QGIS interface will do is we'll create a model out here, and then that model will do all the work for us. We just have to input the distance, that is the value of the buffer which we want, and the layer around which we want to create the buffer. So this brings us to our one of the most important topic of discussions today, that is model builder. So if you go to processing, you can see just below this toolbox option we have this graphical modeler. Okay, so I'll just click on it, and this brings you to this dialog box. So now here you have two different options. On the bottom left corner of the screen, you can see where we have inputs as well as algorithms. So inputs basically helps you to feed any value or any input into the model builder. Okay, so what are the values that are we going to input? First we'll tell the model builder that we have to input a value that will be the amount that the buffer value, basically we'll input the buffer value, and then we'll also make an input which will correspond to the vector layer, that is our point layer. So for that what I'll do is, here I have something called number. Okay, so what is my distance? My distance is basically a number, nothing else. So I'll just click on it and I'll drag and leave it here, and as soon as I do that, a dialog box appears. So here I can type buffer distance maybe. I'll leave these columns empty, everything, and I'll just click OK. So here you can see I've added the buffer distance successfully. Next up, what I'll do, I need to tell the computer to create a buffer around the point layer. So what is that? A vector layer. So basically I'll just drag a vector layer now. I'll click on it and I'll drag it here. And here I will write in say points, and it is asking me for the geometry, so I'll feed the point geometry to it, and I'll click on OK. Now these are the inputs. Now next step is buffer. What is buffer? Buffer is basically an algorithm or a geoprocessing tool. So I'll find it under the algorithm section. So I'll go here and I'll just search for buffer. And as soon as I see buffer, I'll click and I'll drag it here. So now it asks me all the parameters. Basically the input layer will be what? It will be points, the one we created over here. Okay, distance. Now it can, you can input a predefined value over here, but since we want to input the value every time, so I'll just click here, and it gives me an option to feed in the pre-calculated value. Okay, so if I click on pre-calculated value here, sorry, I'm extremely sorry, it will be model input. Okay, Pre-calculated value is some value that we have already calculated and we're just trying to feed it. It will be model input for now. Now, what will be the model input? This will be our model input. That is the buffer distance. So I selected buffer distance over here. And here I'll give an name to our output. That is the buffer that will create. So I'll write here, say point buffer. And I'll click on OK. So as you can see, it takes two input, one from the buffer distance, it takes the value from here, and it takes the vector layer, that is the point layers from here, feeds it to the buffer algorithm, and then we obtain the output, that is the point buffer. Now next what we wanted to do is we wanted to dissolve the output we obtain from buffer. So basically I'll click on dissolve and I'll drag and leave here. Now the input layer will be what? It will be buffered from algorithm buffer. Why? Because I'll show you. So we obtained this output from this algorithm, right? Now we are using this output for the next geoprocessing operation or algorithm that we are going to try out. So it will be, what will be the input layer? It will be buffered from algorithm buffer. And I'll just give it a name, dissolved buffer. And I'll click on OK. So you can see now from this algorithm we have two output. One is the point buffer that we create, and the other one goes to this new geoprocessing algorithm that is dissolve, and we get another output which is dissolve buffer. So this is it. Our a very simple model is ready with us, and now we can, all we have to do is we just run it. So I clicked on the play button and now it asks me to input the buffer distance. I'll enter 0.475. This is basically the value of 50 kilometers in degrees. Here I select the point layer. Since I had already predefined the geometry, that is point, so I can only select points over here, and I'll just run it. So it's done, and you can see here we have the point buffer, and below that we have the dissolve buffer. So yeah, the model did work exactly the way we wanted it to, and now a lot of work has been reduced. Okay, now every time if you have many layers, so you can always run the model and then you'll obtain the output. You do not have to undergo a repetitive procedure, you do not have to undergo a boring procedure. So this was all about model builder. So we'll be attaching a manual of model builder as well with all the materials that we'll be providing to you at the end of the workshop. So I do not need this as of now, so I'll just remove it and we'll move on to our next topic. So okay, so in the last session what we did is we brought this map into the QGIS interface. We digitized the Mysore state out of it. We created some roads. I'll just delete this as well. Okay, moved. Let this one be here. Okay, I'll just leave it deleted. So we digitized a few roads, we digitized a few points, and we created a buffer around this particular district highway road which we have. So now what we want to do is we want to obtain a map of this exact thing. Now what we have done is we have Mysore highlighted in the southern part of India map. You have some roads which you wanted to digitize and you have some points. So now I want to create a map out of it. So what can I do? I can use the map composer or print composer as you like to call it, which is a feature available in QGIS which you can always use to create a map out of any thing which you have in your workspace. Okay, so for that I'll go to project, I'll click on new print layout, and it prompts me to feed into it a name for my map. So I'll enter, say, Mysore India. Mysore India, and I'll click on OK. Okay, apparently the title already exists, so I'll just, yeah. Now what you have to do is you have to okay. Yeah, so you have to come to add item and click on add map, and then this plus sign appears. So you just click and make a selection. Okay, so you basically select the area where you want to place your map. So suppose I'll make it this big and I'll leave it here. So you can see, yeah, our map is exactly placed over here. So it basically connects with the QGIS interface back there with the QGIS workspace, the data we had in it. And I'll just adjust the content for once. Yeah, this is fine. And now here you have different things. Okay, so here you have an option to lock the map. So basically what you do by locking is you fix its position in this place, in this drawing sheet. Basically you fix its position so that in any further changes that you make won't change the position of this map where you have placed it. So I'll just lock it. So yeah, it has been locked, and now here I can feed a scale into it. So suppose I'll use 40000, and okay, that scale was too big. Yeah, so this is fine, and I should move it a little bit more. I have locked it. Just unlock it, and I'll just move its feature a little bit. Okay, yeah, it's done. I'll lock it again. And there are many more options which you can do. One thing is I can add the grids to it, basically the lines of latitude and longitude that I wanted to add to our map. So to do that, I'll just go into layout, and in layout, if I scroll to the bottom, just give me a minute. My cursor doesn't seem to work today. Yeah, so in layout you have guides and grids. So if I click on this, then I have a lot of option that allows me to create some grid lines over here. So I can set the grid lines, I can create some offsets, and I will just add this grid. Okay, so in the last session, if you remember, we had an interval of 5 degrees within the latitude and longitude. Okay, so I'll do the same here as well. I'll just add an interval of 5 in the x direction as well as in the y direction. Also an offset. So offset basically means you are just duplicating the lines that you have added. I'll make it 5 as well, both in the x direction and y direction. And I'll add a frame to it, maybe a zebra frame. And on top of that, you can also add the coordinate value to it. So you can see I've added the coordinate values, but the font is very small to be noticeable. So I'll just make it say 14. So you can see it clearly now. And you can always play with it. There are a lot of options available for you to customize your map just the way you want it to be. And yeah, so it is done. So as you can see, these are the coordinates. These are basically the latitude and longitude of this exact place, the place where this map is located. And now I can go on adding a few more things as well. So if I click on add item, so basically what I want to add is a north arrow to my map. Okay, so I'll just click on add picture, and I will make a selection over here. And here if I click on search directories, so you can see we have a list of options available here from which we can make a selection to add an imagery to the map. So suppose I'll select this one and I'll modify a little bit. Suppose I'll add a blue fill color to it. And okay, blue fill color, the stroke, let it be black, and I increase the thickness of the stroke. And yeah, so this is the north arrow. This points to the northern direction. And similarly, there are more items for you to add as well. You can add a scale bar if you want. So I'll add a scale bar somewhere here. So this scale bar tells me that 1 unit on the map is equivalent to 75 kilometers in the real ground. And I can also add a legend. So basically the legend will tell me whatever data is available on my map, which data corresponds to what. So I'll give it a title, maybe legend 1. and I can play with the font of it. So maybe I'll make it 12, and I can adjust the spacing as well. App Composer comes at handy during cartography. So basically, maps of India or any other parts of the world needs to be updated from time to time. So this comes very handy, and you can create as many maps as you want using this, maybe thematic map or a climatic map, any map. So you can make a lot of customizations here. Okay, so yeah, it's almost done. So let me add a simple shape to it so that I can contain the entire thing. So like this, and I'll make this reddish and translucent. So yeah, here your map is ready. You have successfully created a map using the map composer, and now you can always export it. You can save it as a PDF or as an image or SVG file or any kind of file you want. Okay, so this was all about map composer. Excuse me. So now we'll be talking about something new. I'll just leave the project here, and because we're going to explore a new topic. So now we are going to discuss about interpolation. So you might have heard about interpolation in a basic first semester or this semester mathematics. So basically, interpolation in mathematics refers to a technique by which you can obtain the missing values. So suppose you have a series of values and then some values are missing. So based on the trend in which the values generally occur, you can always interpolate them and find out the missing values. Interpolation is not always accurate, but yeah, so when you have a large number of data set and the data is actually valid, so at that point interpolation works quite well. Okay, so I'll be showing you how to do interpolation in QGIS, and I'll explain also by what is the significance of interpolation, why are we doing it exactly. So for that, I'll just import two shape files and I'll explain you what the shape file means as well. So this and this. Okay, so this boundary represents the boundary of a lake. Okay, the lake's name is Arlington, and it is the boundary of the lake which has been digitized, just the same way we digitized the Mysore yesterday out of the India's map. And then here we have something called Arlington soundings. So basically, at first, at this scale, it may seem like some random lines to you, but if you zoom into it, so these are a collection of actually very dense points. As you can see, these are all points. These are not lines. They are so dense that at a higher scale, they appear as lines to you. So this is what is. So basically what this point data set represents here is what the surveyors have done is they have digitized the Arlington boundary and then using an echo depth sounder. Okay, so basically echo depth sounder is an instrument that helps you to take measurements of the depth of water from the groundwater table. Okay, so all these points actually they contain the depth, that is the depth of the water at a certain location. So if I open the information system or the attribute table associated with it, you can see there is a large number of entries. Okay, so the last ID is 37,333. So basically there are 37,000 number of points of data which have been recorded here. And then you have different fields like an ID, you have the X coordinate, that is the longitude, you have the Y coordinate, that is the latitude. Then you have the date on which the recording was taken, the depth, and then you have elevation ground and elevation of groundwater table. So basically elevation ground means the elevation of the surface of water from the ground, and elevation groundwater table means from the mean sea level or the mean groundwater table, as we call it. So what we will do is, now when it comes to taking measurements, okay, so now this lake is a very big lake. Okay, any surface that you digitize on the surface of earth, it's very big, and when you are on the ground surveying and taking measurements, it is not practically possible to take recordings at each and every point. Okay, it is very hectic and it is nearly impossible because you cannot take readings at each and every point on the surface of the earth. So basically what they do is they just take points at certain places, certain positions where the data can be reliable, and there won't be much variation of data. Okay, so that's what has been done here. Okay, they have taken data as all the places possible where the data can be reliable, data can be true to its nature. So that's what we are going to do here. We have taken the data and we will just predict what should be the value or the depth of the groundwater table at all the places where the data is missing. So this is what interpolation helps us to do. So how can you do the interpolation? Simple, you need to go to processing, just click on toolbox. And before doing interpolation, always make sure that you have the interpolation plugin installed in your laptop. Basically, you can go to plugin and install the interpolation plugin. I guess in the QGIS, this version of QGIS, it comes installed beforehand, but in the previous version of QGIS, you had to go to the plugins and install it. So I'll just type in interpolation, and here I have two options. As you can see, one is an IDW interpolation, one is a TIN interpolation. So IDW interpolation is inverse distance weighted interpolation, and TIN interpolation is triangular irregular network. Okay, so TIN is generally used for these kind of projects where you work with elevation or where you work with data like rainfall or soil data, etc. IDW is generally used to make a population estimation, or change in the change in vegetation, etc. That kind of analysis you use IDW. So the best suited type of interpolation for this one is TIN interpolation. So I'll just click on it. I'll select the vector layer that I want to interpolate, which is Arlington soundings, and the interpolation attribute, basically the value on which the system needs to interpolate. So the value here will be elevation groundwater table. I'll just select it. I'll just add it. The interpolation method is linear, let it be linear. And then you can manipulate the size of the data that you're going to obtain. So here we have a pixel size of 0.1, which brings us to a raster or an image file of around 2 lakh columns and 1,25,000 rows. So that is very big, and computer will take a lot of time to process. So what I'll do is I'll just alter the pixel size and make it 10 so that the resolution reduces a little bit and the computer won't tackle much of an issue to interpolate our data. So yeah, everything is fine, and I'll just click on OK. So I didn't select the extent. I have to select the extent for which I want the interpolation to occur. So what will be my extent? Basically, I'm doing it for the Arlington boundary. Okay, so I'll select use layer extent, and then I will select the boundary. So now you know why the boundary shape file had been imported. Now you know the significance of the boundary. Now it will help you to contain your interpolation within that boundary. So you select it and click on run. Your interpolation is done. I'll just show you. Now you can see that the Arlington boundary, I'll just close this one. Arlington boundary was a very irregular type of polygon, and the interpolation that we obtained is somewhat regular. As you can see, it is a very like 5 or 6 sided polygon. So what happened here is basically what interpolation does is it takes the extreme points in each and every direction and then connects them to give you the output, the final output. Okay, so in this place it took this point, in this place it took this point. So all the extreme edges, extreme points it took, and then it connected. But we do not want values here because this is not where the lake is present. The lake is present somewhere here. Though these values which have been covered, we need to eliminate them. So in order to eliminate them, what we can do is you can use a tool named clip. Okay, so we have two types of clip basically. One clip is used for vector, another one is for raster. And since the interpolation is a raster kind of data, so you have to select clip raster by mask layer. Okay, so here you select your interpolated layer. Here you selected your mask layer. Your mask layer is basically the boundary, the Arlington Lake boundary. Select it, everything else is fine, and you click on run. Now if I close this, so you can see that now you have obtained the exact interpolated area for the lake. Okay, now you must be wondering why these areas are missing. So these areas are missing because if I would like to show you, so there was no recording taken in this area. As you can see, this area is completely absent. There are no points here, so the interpolation could not fetch any data in these points. So in order to avoid inaccuracy and errors, it just completely neglected this point. This is what happened here. Now this has been represented in blue, in white and black pixels. It looks very plain. So what you can do is you can always alter its symbology. So if I open symbology, and here I have a type in which it is rendered. It is single band gray as of now. So what it does, it renders your complete image in black and white format. If I want it to be colorful, I can select single band pseudo color, and as soon as I select it, here you have different color ramps available to you. I have selected the spectral one over here. So it takes the minimum value, that is the minimum elevation value of downward ripple, which is around 502.28 feet, and the maximum value, which is around 546.36, and it divides it into 5 different classes of color. So as you can see, the lowest value of elevation will be indicated in red, and as it goes on increasing, the color pattern also goes on increasing, that it is goes from red to orange to yellow to bluish kind of. Okay, so as soon as you click on apply, and now you can see it is a little bit more presentable now. It looks better, and you can see you have 5 different classes available here. Now, now this is a map of this is an elevation map basically we obtained. Now you can obtain a contour map from it as well. Okay, so I think everybody knows what is a contour map. Contour maps are basically uh, lines on a map which connect all the points having the same elevation. So I can also create a contour map out of it. All I need to do is type contour over here, and you can see you have an option called contour. Just click on it. Select the clipped mask layer over here. Interval between contour lines, I'd like to restrict it to 5, so that it shows me all the difference of 5 elevation clearly. 5 meters or 5 feet, whatever it is. Everything else is fine. Need not bother about it. Just click on run. And as you can see, now you have obtained the contour map for it. You can see all the closed spaces lines. You can go on modifying it, adding the values to it, changing its color, anything. So all these kind of things you can do. So yeah, that's all about interpolation. And so most of the parts which we wanted to discuss in today's workshop are already complete. So I'll just come back to surface area analysis once again, and I'll just show you a project on which I have worked on. I'll just demonstrate the presentation of it to you, because demonstrating it step by step would be very time taking, because it has a lot of thing involved in it. So I'll just explain it to you in brief so that you get a basic idea of surface area analysis. Okay, so I'll be switching from the QGIS software to this presentation in Microsoft PPT. I'll just start it. So basically what I have done here is, in this, I'll just tell you very quick. So for surface area analysis, we also use a plugin named ORS. So this plugin basically helps you to generate a token. Now this token is valid for 24 hours only. And using that token, you can use any surface area analysis tool in your QGIS plugin. And after 24 hours, you have to always generate a new token and then use it once. So what I have done here exactly is, I'll show you. So this is basically the layout of Hyderabad Metro. Okay, so you can see some green dots come, some densified green dots and some randomly placed yellow dots. Okay, so yellow dots are basically all the stops that are present in Hyderabad station. Hyderabad metro station basically. So this is one stop, this is another stop. So the yellow demarcates all the stops. The green ones basically demarcates all the edges, all the twists and turnings of the metro. The way the metro's route follows, that is demarcated by the green dots. So what I did is to obtain a path from this. So basically these green dots are not a path. These are basically different points which are aligned along the path. So to convert them into a road, into a line feature, there's a feature called point to path in the geoprocessing tool. It is in the same toolbox where we used all our other geoprocessing tools like buffer, resolve, etc. So the point to path is available there. So using that, you can always convert any point, any set of continuous points into a discrete path. Okay. Now you have another options called isochrones. So I'll explain what isochrone is. Just like we discussed in contours. So the contours, what was contour? Contour was basically a line connecting all the points having the same elevation. So isochrone is something like suppose you take a time of 10 minutes, so all the area that you can cover up from a single point in 10 minutes, that is called isochrone. So, okay, so in a stipulated time interval, the area that you can cover is called isochrone. Now isochrone is obtained on the basis of maybe traffic, on the basis of the availability of a route. Okay, so isochrone, so a 10-minute isochrone may be a very large polygon in Hyderabad, but it may be a very small polygon in some rural area, because uh, you know, on the basis of more time it will take to reach that area. So basically that is isochrone. So what I did is I took all those points over on the Hyderabad metro rail, and then I created isochrones for each and every station. What is the duration of the isochron? The duration of the isochron is 10 minutes. So basically, if I show you a simple polygon, so suppose this is the Begumpet station. Okay, so the polygon highlighted in red is the isochrone for Begumpet station. So basically, this is the area that you can access in 10 minutes from this station. Okay, so this is what I have done over here. So similarly, I have obtained isochrones for each and every station. Okay. Next, what I did is I simply dissolved all the polygons. So now I had say 20 to 30 different polygons for each and every station. And once I dissolved it, just similar to the one I demonstrated a few minutes back. And if I dissolve it, so now I obtain an entire big polygon, which marks all the area which can be accessed within 10 minutes from any point in the Hyderabad metro rail. Okay. So this is what I have done. Now I have used another plugin called QuickOSM. What it basically does is it helps you to import data from the internet. Okay, so you can import a shapefile layer of all the ATMs which are present in Hyderabad. You can import the shapefiles of all the hospitals, all the restaurants. So in this case, I have imported all the ATMs. So all this red diagonal shaped points, as you can see on the screen, these are all the ATMs which are available in this area, in this particular area. Okay. Now what I did is I used a clip tool, the one I demonstrated a few minutes back again, to select only the points which fall inside this polygon. So what does this mean? Now out of this hundreds or maybe 200 points of ATM which I had, now I open some few points, maybe 30 or 40, and these points lie within an area which can be accessed in a time period of 10 minutes from the Hyderabad station. So this is what I have done. And now this refers to like the all the points basically, for all the stations. So if I want to pick up a particular station, say Begumpet, so I picked up Begumpet, and I also used another tool which helps me to count each feature inside a polygon. So what it did is counted the only two ATMs which are present inside the Begumpet polygon, and now I have these two features only. So now what I can do is I can just simply click on any ATM which I wanted to access. It will feed me it will give me the location of that ATM, and then I can always find my route to that ATM using Google Map or anything. Okay. So yeah, now I did this thing for Hyderabad metro station. Now someone wants to do it for some other metro station, maybe Delhi or maybe Kolkata metro. So repeating this entire thing would be quite clumsy. It will be time taking. It will become boring at some point. So that's why we use model builder. So what I did is I feeded this entire operation into a model builder just like this, just the way I showed you. Okay. So here we have a time, we have a polygon from which the data is fed into a single algorithm. It creates an isochrone polygon out of it. And then I take the output from the isochrone polygon, dissolve it, and I found the total walkable area. After that, I can also add the extra tool that is to count all the polygon, count all the ATMs inside a single station, inside a single point. And yeah, my work is done. I just need to select the layer, the point layer. I just need to feed in the walking time, and then I can obtain all my data. So now, previously I had used 10 minutes working time, and now I'm using a 15 minutes working time. So yeah, this polygon, as you can see, the translucent blue kind of polygon was the one which was corresponding to the 10 minutes isochrone, and this one is a 15-minute isochrone. So basically, yeah, that's it. And you can always extend this uh, project to, you can, you know, you may add more features to it, that is like using a shortest path algorithm. So basically what it will do is, if you get down at Begumpet station, now using service area analysis techniques, you found out all the ATMs that are present in your 15 minutes vicinity, and then you can use the shortest path algorithm that will show you the shortest path to access that particular ATM. Okay, so you can always extend it to sky's the limit. It is all dependent on your imagination. So yeah, guys, that was all I wanted to discuss with you, and we'll be attaching all of this uh, today. I think by the end of this session, after some time, we'll be sharing all the data with you along with a training manual. The training manual is completely documented. It's a step-by-step procedure that you can always follow to replicate each and everything that we discussed at your own place. And yeah, guys, that's it from me. Thank you for bearing with me, and it was great having you guys. You're a brilliant audience, and I hope that now you have at least some idea about GIS, the use of it, how practical this is in today's world. Okay, so yeah, guys, I'd like to conclude. Thank you so much. Aditya?
Thank you, Devashish sir. We all were very grateful to have you. Now, if there are any doubts or any queries, you are most welcome to ask. You can either put it in the chat box, I will pick up from there, or you can unmute yourself and then ask.
Any questions, anyone? I'm pretty sure all of this is quite difficult to take in when it goes on on an online platform. And once you start doing these things on your own, then it will be much more easier. QGIS is not very tough actually, and you just need to know a few operations, and then after that you can always try and experiment, and you'll be learning easily. And once you master any open source software, it will be, I can guarantee you that it will be much more easier to handle any proprietary software or any licensed software. Okay, any commercialized software that many hi-fi companies endorse. So open source comes with a lot of functionalities every time. So for beginners, I'll always say go for QGIS, because once you get a good grasp over it, then you can always move on to other ones, and it'll be easier to follow as well. So any question, guys?
I think there are no more questions. Those who want to explore this field in depth, they are most welcome in our club. I am sending the group invite link in the chat, so you can join from there. And we will be sharing all the PDFs and all the resources you need to get started with learning QGIS in the groups as well. So thank you. I would like to thank the whole team for working behind this event, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to host this session. Thank you audience for turning up.
Thank you, guys. You have a great day. Thank you, Aditya.